You were dropping some Nissan Leaf news. What's going on?
I did. So in the last, as we're doing this research, it never, it seems like, especially this year, there have been a number of Nissan models that have a reputation. They've been long enough to establish a reputation, like the Maxima, right? That's been discontinued. We've heard that the Titan is going to be discontinued. Now another one is being phased out. Not discontinued yet, but it is on its way, and that is the Nissan Leaf. This comes from Yahoo Autos. Um, the Nissan Leaf, originally released in 2010, has been one of the most affordable EVs available. And now what Nissan is doing, it's shifting its focus to the Aria and other future EV offerings. So the Leaf is finding its way out probably within the next 2 years. Um, this kind of changes some things around a little bit, at least until further notice, until we hear something. So, just to give you an idea, the Nissan Leaf sells for about $27,000. It's a very affordable EV car. Um, it is being essentially the focus is shifting to the Aria, and although it does give you a larger driving range, more charge. It is the Aria is more performance oriented versus economical. That being said, the Aria sells at a base at $43,000, and premium versions of the Aria go to $60,000. So what we're seeing is this transition of the Leaf going away at this really nice price point, and what we're seeing right now is a focus again to the Aria, which is essentially double what the Leaf is. So that, and because the Aria is not made in the United States, for us in the U.S., we do not have the tax benefit anymore. A lot of times, I'm sure you've heard I think we've spoken about this in the past, Miles, where if an EV is made, there is a tax credit that you can get with your tax return
It
because you
was a
are
hot thing for a
distributing.
minute. Definitely. I mean, the Prius was doing it. The Leaf was doing. I mean, it went across all the manufacturers for a hot minute, and then yeah, because we were pushing green, 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 and now it's kind of just like, well, buy whatever the hell you want. No tax deduction for you. No soup for you.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's what happened. So
yeah, it's really crazy, man. So what we're seeing is I consider it somewhat of a loss. We're losing this car model that has been so affordable, so practical, and it really is that entry point into changing the consumer's mind into EV, and it has been since 2010. And now now it's kind of coming to this point where it's like, okay, well, it's going to cost you more now, and there's no more rebate, and it's getting harder to um, uh, there's fewer options. It's making the EV available to fewer and fewer people over time, is what this article's saying as well. Um, Now there is mention that there is they're saying that Nissan's focus was never to replace the Leaf with the Aria, but at least from a campaign, that's kind of what's happening right now. However, there is a new Nissan model that will be on its way, which will be the direct successor to the Leaf. There's been no mention of what that is yet, but there is another EV that will kind of fill the Leaf's shoes. But we don't know anything about what its capabilities are, and much less its price point. We don't know that at the moment. So, um,
hmm.
for me personally, though, I mean, I hope this decision doesn't hurt Nissan. Again, right around this time where we're transitioning, we're trying to get the mass consumers' approval or buy-in to EVs. Going and making a car that's focusing on a car that's becoming more expensive. It's kind of adding more friction to that effort. So I hope it doesn't hurt us
Well,
anyway.
let's talk about what consumers are kind of wanting. Everybody wants an EV, right? They want to get the cost benefit of the EV. And then
Hmm.
also they still, I mean, Americans, we just want the SUVs when they broke
Hmm.
in the 90s. I mean, they killed the Japanese supercar market pretty much in a year. Everybody had to have the excursions, the expeditions, and the explorers, and then the Suburbans. I mean, it literally just it destroyed, it killed the market, right, for the
Hmm.
Japanese supercars. So, next best thing that was going to come up when these EVs hit. I mean, it's no real surprise, at least in the U.S. market, that everybody wants an EV SUV. So
Mm,
I maybe it's not such a dark and gloomy cloud as you would think. I mean, the Araya, especially what they're doing with the pole to pole right now, is they're getting the marketing and they're getting the push right now. And if you haven't been following that, these guys are almost at the end of their completion of their tour of the pole to pole of the Araya. I'm
hmm.
not going to pull focus, but again, this is just
Yeah.
one of the things that is happening out there to draw attention to what the SUVs are capable of.
Hmm.
And but again, are we taking are we shutting down a part of the market that maybe people are going to miss? Of
But
course,
that's
there's going to be a replacement, but it's like I don't know. I feel like the Leaf was doing okay standing on its own.
yeah.
Huh.
Well, and that's it's fun. It's something that you mentioned too. Is with these prices on EV, they seem to be increasing at the moment, according the way this article is kind of stating it. But it one of the comments made in this article is that it seems as though EVs are becoming to be still a luxury vehicle, more of a luxury vehicle.
Makes sense.
But it makes me think too is that Nissan has a luxury division, which is Infinity. And it kind of got into a bigger topic to me, which was, have you seen these price points on these cars? Again,
Yeah.
$43,000. The Araya is between what is it? Um, $43,000 entry,
Hmm.
and the premium versions of the Aria can go up to $60,000. Meanwhile, there are other cars such as
Yeah.
the Armada, that are going to up to $69,000.
But you got to remember also too. I mean, look at the price of, and I'm going to bring them up just because they started the kind of the market, or became the leaders. The Teslas. Teslas are crazy overpriced,
Yes.
for what they are, and but a lot of people, if you are keeping up with everything that's happening with the EV market, I mean, Hyundai's coming out hard. Like
Hmm.
with their pricing point, they're pushing luxury, and that everybody's chasing the 300, as far as the hours on these batteries and everything. That's like the new
Yes.
thing.
The
That's what, and
range.
we talk
Yeah.
about that from time to time through the Nissan news. The I then now we also have the freaking truck market is finally blowing up. You've got Rivians who've been kind of coming hard at it. Going back to luxury, there's Lucid who's coming out of the woodwork, and they're
Yeah.
just like they're going nuts right now. It's just everybody's
Hmm.
doing something like that, and they are pushing that luxury. I feel like it. The Infinity line would be something that I would definitely see them pushing EV, but also, if I were as like companies like BMW and Mercedes, I'd be sweating a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, there has been a lot of information from Infinity. Essentially, they are doing this renaissance of themselves, where they are pivoting to be this almost a purely EV. I don't want to. I'm paraphrasing, but a lot of the models that they're working on with Infinity is EV only. It is getting there.
Mm.
The question I had though too is, at where is, from a dollar perspective, where is the line between paying for a Nissan and paying for an Infinity? Like, um,
Well, I feel like Nissan and Infinity, and this is just my opinion, they've definitely separated themselves as two separate businesses.
yes,
Obviously, at this
yes,
point, and you can kind of see that in everything, that the way they operate, everything that the way they earn. I mean, we did this back when COVID was kind of coming around, and there was a really bad year for Nissan. Of course, a lot of things are going on out of their control, but
supply chain,
Infinity,
right?
Infinity was in the green, really good
Mm,
comparatively to Nissan at that particular time. Now it's leveled off, and it's definitely a different story. But Nissan came up with this really um, huge plan, and at the time they had to, and they were already ahead of the curve before everything kind of came around with COVID, and we had the shutdown and the lockdown, or whatever you want to call it.
hmm.
And so they were at this advantageous position through sheer luck to of they were already making changes as a business, and here they are, they set themselves up to
Mhm,
slingshot from this really horrible position to a pretty strong position very quickly. So that was very advantageous for them at that time. But
mhm,
Infinity basically kind of just rode it out, this success, but then the market's changing, so now they have to kind of come up with this new potential ad a
mhm.
potential new plan as well, which makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
So yeah, you're right. I mean, what you've got Nissan and Infinity,
yeah.
two different companies essentially that are
Yeah.
thinking of two different plans. So have you got anything from Infinity of what's happening in their house right now?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too because man, every time we do a podcast, we're studying, we're doing the research. I go to the Infinity newsroom every time to look for the latest information from them directly, and uh, it's as of late. I mean, I'm sure for those who listen to the podcast often, is that we haven't really mentioned a lot with Infinity because
There's
not a
no
lot's
news.
coming out. Nothing that really has real significance when it comes to actual. This is what we're coming out with. It's
Yeah.
always somewhat of a PR article on price point on something, but in terms of the efforts, I know it's in progress, but at least on my radar, it hasn't any type of actual detail. It's been a while since I've seen that. But yeah, again, like you mentioned, like there's a lot of from a price perspective, there's like this overlap, this bleed through between what is a Nissan and what is an Infinity, because you have your entry level Infinities and then you have your premium Nissans, and they can be right about the same dollar point, the same price, but I don't know. Again, looking at how much Nissan wants for the Aria. By the way, have you seen one of these vehicles on the street yet? I start to wonder about
The
volume
Aria?
numbers.
I have
Yes.
not seen the Aria in on the streets of San Antonio, Texas just yet. I've
Mhm.
actually been waiting for them to kind of come around so I can actually try to drive one. So I was
Yeah.
going to do maybe try to do a test drive, or hell, I mean, if these ever come available for rental, I would I would definitely be taking one of those suckers for an extended time period and see how it goes. You know how we are. We always every time we rent cars, we have an exclusive note that it only be Nissans, and we drive these cars cross country whenever we're doing anything for ourselves. So,
Mhm. That
um,
that that is
but yeah,
true, man. Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of I mean, just to sum up the article though, I think a lot remains to be seen as to what is going to replace the Leaf. I'm really curious to figure out what that is and the price point. I want to make sure I think this is a really important time in the automotive industry to have an affordable EV option, because if this transition is kicking off as it has been, i- if you go too high of a price, it's going to kind of affect your campaign. This whole campaign, it's going to hurt you. So I
yeah,
I hope Nissan knows what I know what they're doing. I know they
yeah,
know what they're
yeah.
doing.